Do I need my jacket on? That's, thank you. That's what you call a good relationship. Exactly, bastard. Didn't even think about that until he asked. I was like, oh, because I know what I'd be doing. No, we're good. All right, guys. We're ready to go, guys. We've got, we're just going to do, I know you have several voting lists, but we are just going to do voting list 17. We will come back after the first session and vote the other bills out. We're not in a big hurry. Yes. So we're going to start, we're going to skip around a little bit and start with Senate Bill 516. That is the Cannabis Reform Bill. And we have some guests with us that are going to actually walk us through the changes in the bill. Matt, whenever you're ready.
Good morning, everybody. So the changes that I'm going to go over today, the reprint that you got in your voting packet, I'm going to reference page numbers, line numbers.
Wait, what now? There is no... There was an email, guys.
It was an email sent at 9 a.m.
You're fine. You're fine. No. There's an email. Yeah, you guys pop your computers open or turn your ears on. Let's go. There you go, hon. Thank you.
All right. So these amendments right now, we're not going to go over just the Senate amendments. There's a compromise kind of position between the House.
And I'm sorry, to be clear, before Matt goes on, this, you know, right now the Senate has our version of the cannabis bill and we have theirs. So instead of doing this back and forth and appointing conference members and stuff, we decided to hold on to each other's bills and work out the amendments. So they're going to be amending our bill the same way we amend theirs. So the goal is that the bill is going to cross back equally. So he's going to explain these amendments that have been worked out between the good Senator Griffith and myself in the work groups trying to get to a middle ground. So go ahead, Matt.
All right. So you're going to see several amendments throughout the bill. There's a lot of technical clarifying and like date changes and stuff. A lot of this doesn't like change the substantive pieces of the bill. So, but what I am going to go over today and point you to are those major changes from the House bill, tweaking in those, weaving in those negotiated alterations. So beginning on page 7, you'll see in lines 12 through 16, the bill now requires that new members of the ATCC, the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Cannabis Commission, have expertise in cannabis and alcohol and tobacco policy. On page 12, you'll see tweaks regarding the Office of Social Equity's role regarding existing special funds. On page 25, beginning with line 9, there are provisions that are altered relating to control, the definition of control. So essentially under the amended provision, a cannabis business will be able to acquire non-controlling interests above 5%, aligning this legislation with current practice. This gives more flexibility generally when raising equity. On the same page in line 25, you'll see an authorization, a reauthorization, the House struck a dispensary's ability to repackage. The compromise position is that repackaging is there. However, in the amendment later on in the bill, you'll see that repackaging is now subject to the same health, safety, and tracking standards as packaging, as if you were packaging cannabis for the first time. On page 28, after line 19, you'll see that the definition of social equity licensee is altered to include certain dispensaries as well as growers and processors. Page 29, lines 20 through 23, you'll see that the Maryland Cannabis Administration is established as an independent unit of state government and must work with the ATCC via an MOU. So the Cannabis Administration is just renamed here. It is clear that it is an independent entity now. This is what we commonly refer to as the Cannabis Division. We were discussing the House version of the bill.
The ATCC.
Go ahead and say that again.
I'm sorry. So did you say that it is still under the ATCC? It's just clarifying, or is it totally separate? I
So
missed
it's
it.
correct, is separating them out.
So they're not a part of the ATC. It's just it's their own administration there.
Correct.
Okay.
But they are working together under MOU for enforcement purposes.
Yeah, just trying to keep up with the page numbers as you go through and catch up.
Oh, feel free to let me go,
Yeah,
and
if there are
I
any
can.
questions,
Yeah.
guys, please, as we're moving through, that would be the time to ask, okay? Thank you.
On the bottom of page 33 through the top of page 34, the administration must now, being the Cannabis Administration, must now adopt regulations governing internet sales, packaging and label requirements, technologies for validating IDs, and other health, safety, and tracking requirements for the repackaging of cannabis by dispensaries. This is not clear in the reprint. Unfortunately, this was left out. So this is just a conceptual kind of change that you will see later on in the bill. The administration now has to regulate internet sales. There will be language that goes into the bill that says that direct-to-consumer internet sales in the adult use recreational market will not begin until July 2025, to give time for everything to be stood up. This does not affect the commercial side of things or medical folks, so everything existing kind of current practice maintains. On page 34, beginning with line 13 down through line 10 on page 36, the administration is now required to adopt potency standards for cannabis products. Additionally, the bill sets strict guidelines regarding packaging, including the need for child-resistant packaging and the warning labels and labeling required to warn individuals of allergens and other impairments. There is a piece in there that allows for the packaging now, so things don't have to be pulled off shelves for all of that stuff to kind of work its way out of the system. On page 44, in line 26, language is added that prohibits smoking indoors at on-site consumption establishments. No longer can you smoke indoors. These aren't similar to cigar shops. You can smoke out on like a patio and stuff if it's zoned and everything correctly.
Weed lounges.
There will not be something like a cigar-style indoor thing. It does leave open the possibility that if you're out and it's zoned and you can have like a patio or something, then there is a possibility, but it essentially subjects it to the Clean Indoor Air Act. These things now are going to be more akin to like a bakery or a coffee shop maybe, but not like an actual smoke lounge. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. On page 45 in line 7, you'll see now that only 10 micro dispensary licenses are authorized. These are your delivery licenses without a brick and mortar storefront. Only 10, period. Authorization to issue any more licenses was struck. This is pending more study regarding the safe delivery methods that we could employ in a future session. On the same page in line 10, you'll see that businesses can now hold up to 4 dispensary licenses. The original House position was only 2. On page 46 in line 22, delivery of medical cannabis is now authorized through July. It is currently 4, and you currently have businesses that hold 4. So it was aligning essentially with current law. Back to correct. One person can only hold 1 grow, 1 process, but 4 dispensaries. And you have various dispensary operators that only own 1, and some that only own 2, some only 3, some only 4. So the 4 will be still the max. On page 46 in line 22, there was a call for medical cannabis to still be able to be delivered. That is authorized through July 1st, 2024 with existing licensees and registrants. So that's not going to be touched. That's also to give us more time to figure out delivery generally in the recreational market as a whole. On page 47, in several places, you'll see where the amount that entities can now only expand. We had a 25% cap on those conversions. It has been brought down to 20% now. The date is also moved back to the end of 2022 for bringing in pre-authorized expansions. On the bottom of page 49 and on page 50, the House's fee schedule for license conversions is struck. Instead, we're going the bill takes it to a grower and processor that will pay 10% of gross income with $2 million caps. Dispensaries will pay 8% of gross income with the same cap. There is a typo in your amendment. I believe the 10% says growers and dispensaries, and there is another provision that says 8% dispensaries. The 10% will say growers and processors, and the 8% will just be dispensaries. No delegate, we'll actually get to that in a second. This is just the conversion fee, upfront fee. The tax you'll see later on is going to be set at one base rate.
Okay.
On the bottom of page 51 through the top of page 52, you'll see that the Cannabis Administration is now required to reduce licensing and renewal fees for social equity licensees. This also applies to incubator space and on-site consumption licensees to make them more valuable, and that reduction goes by at least 50%. At the top of page 55 in the reprint, which are the very poorly defined lines 1 through 6, there's clarifying language that puts the onus on out-of-state applicants to prove that they're social equity applicants, so that the administration isn't going from some out-of-state entity and trying to figure out whether or not they'd apply or not. Additionally, you'll see that there is a report there that is required on how to safe and securely dispense cannabis. On page 55, beginning in line 7 through line 14 on page 59, you'll see a ton of underlined text. Nothing here has substantively changed from the House, or has changed from the House version. There are amendments from the Office of the Attorney General tweaking these specifics of each round of licensure. They're really only technical in nature. We had a bunch of tweaks in the House version, and it's further been tweaked a little bit from there, but nothing changes for the rounds or anything from the House version that you all saw. On page 60 in line 24 through 27, there's an amendment that requires Medco, who's financing some of these incubator spaces, they're going to be turning their facility over to the Department of General Services to be run. This was also an administration request. On page 66 in line 8, there's a floor set on the amount of shelf space that dispensaries must set aside for social equity applicants and also applicants not within the same vertically integrated space. On the same page, beginning in line 11, the bill now specifies that a new dispensary may not be located, this goes to the zoning stuff, within 500 feet from a school, child care facility, playground, recreation center, library, or public park, or within 1,000 feet from another dispensary. Sets a base level. There was also some concern about geographic distribution. This sets a base level. Local governments may waive this requirement when they want, but they have to do that via local ordinance themselves.
Do that. Was there any discussion in this about the distance from a liquor store? Do you know, was there any discussion at all?
It's been brought up, but the distance from a liquor store did not make it into the bill. It was more akin to sensitive places, schools and child care facilities. That's where the conversation led. Mm-hmm. And this was where the compromise was kind of added on.
Yeah, it's a little disappointing. Thank you.
You know that the counties can still regulate that. That's one thing. We tried to not stick our beak into zoning, as you remember, for there in the first debate, to narrowly confine it. So your county, and I would, ask that you press them on that, can still do that. Because we don't, depending on how the county's laid out, maybe they can't, but Charles, Prince George, all of us, we can still do that ourselves if we choose to, okay?
How did we get to 500 feet from a school but 1,000 feet from another dispensary?
I think the 500 feet from a school was just, was simply put in there just for the sensitive places. Just strictly as that. The 1,000 feet was the separate issue of geographic density, trying to make sure that these dispensaries don't all end up on just a few blocks in a particular area. So that was the thought.
What was in the original bill from the footage from a school? Do you remember?
There was nothing.
There was nothing.
Again, we were leaving that to the county individual jurisdictions, as long as it wasn't onerous. Senate felt the need to put some safeguards in, so they're not hurting anything, because you can say 2,000 feet from a school. You get to do what you want to do. We're allowing that control, and it's not onerous as long as there's a policy behind it that allows them to say, we have enough land, we have enough room, and we don't want them this close to a school at all. So they can still expound upon the very thin set of parameters that we've laid out.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just add it. It adds a little bit of just specificity just in the early days when the administration's kind of rolling this out. Just like here are some base level guidelines.
Thanks.
Delegate Rose.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to expand on an understanding of the local control. So if a county says they don't want to have a cannabis store,
They will
can you just,
they'll get their feelings hurt, because at some point, if that's, the goal is to get rid of the illicit market. And if there's a county that says they don't want any cannabis, that means that the citizens don't have access to cannabis. That's the opposite. It's going to have the opposite effect. What we can do is work with the counties on where they go, but if we believe everybody should have access to cannabis, because that's what they voted for, that's what our citizens voted for, and we have to have these done in a geographical way where people don't have to drive a half hour, 45 minutes, because they won't. They'll go to the illicit market. So for us, it was important that that itself would be onerous to say we don't want any of that. But you can determine where they go. As long as it's not overburdensome and onerous, but no county is going to be able to say, nope, not one.
all right, thank you.
I'm sorry. Delegate Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Oh, I might have missed it. Did you also say so many distance from a church? And if they do have them near that, is some penalties or anything? Will they get fined or what? For all these places, you said so many feet from the schools, so many feet. Okay, but you didn't say churches.
That would still be kicked to the locals.
Correct.
Oh, the locals. Is there a fine in case they catch somebody?
They would not be able to locate there without
Right.
the local governing body's
The
approval.
zoning.
So that wouldn't happen.
Yeah, they're
Kind
not
of.
going to be able to sneak in.
Okay.
The zoning authority, you getting your UNO, all those things still apply. It's still a business. You have to get your license, your zoning, all that good stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Another bite? Go ahead, sir.
So we're kicking this to the locals as far as footage from schools and that type of stuff. So that'll go through the county council process, or depend how the commissioner process, depending how you're chartered, right?
Correct.
So,
I mean, I think people have zoning. I'm assuming it
Right.
wouldn't go all the way to the council. I'm assuming it'll be dealt with by the zoning.
so where are we as far as a state, and what the state would do if people came in and there was a lot of county, a lot of uproar? I mean, these are elected officials just like we are. And they said, we don't want them within 2,000 feet of a school.
Okay.
But what that did was extremely limit or negate these businesses, you know what I'm saying?
That would be considered onerous, correct?
Right. So what's the remedy? What happens there?
Go to court. You take them to court. Again, the goal really is
Take a citizens advocacy group to court?
the county.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be able to have these, and people need access. So if we have to,
Well, my point is, the citizens come in and they say, we don't want them, I don't know, make up a number, it doesn't
Sure.
matter. But because of that geographic restriction, it severely limits and/or eliminates.
Correct, and that's a problem. And
Then
usually,
the state sues the county for reacting to the way the citizenry wanted.
you mean, but most times it is a squeaky wheel or the lunatic fringe that yells. That doesn't mean everybody agrees with that. And again, the citizens as a state have voted for this. So yes, if indeed they try to preclude an entire county because of a few loud citizens, and remember, a lot of us here at this
I don't
table,
think they're going to try to preclude an entire
Well, if-
county.
if-
I think they're just
well,
going to try
if-
to react to.
by with your explanation, your question was that by that, whatever limitations they put on, it would basically keep any and all cannabis out of a county. That is precluding. Meaning, our job is to, is to make sure they're not onerous. And if they are, if we have to take them to court, we will. I hope we
I
don't.
understand NIMBY, Mr. Chair, I understand, but my question still stands.
But this isn't NIMBY. This is the
That's
opposite.
absolutely would be used for NIMBY. But my question is, what is the actions of the state at that point on the local? So we would sue.
Well, apparently we're not. Dang it.
I'm sorry, what?
Apologies, yeah. I'm slipping, it's early, yes. When I say the state, I apologize. What I meant, the applicant,
Okay.
they would be the ones to sue, and that's why we wrote the standards down. I apologize.
Okay. And then, much to Delegate Turner's question, so is there any type of consumption violation within the 500 feet of the schools? And I'm talking about strictly consumption. So you got somebody standing right outside of the school smoking pot, somebody standing right outside of a church smoking pot. I mean, is there any?
Existing laws regarding consumption close to like schools and everything else still apply. This bill doesn't change that.
So it would fall under like alcohol consumption.
I believe so. I don't know all the ins and
Public
outs of it,
consumption.
but we're not doing anything here with the with the public consumption laws outside of what we did last year.
This isn't
which
part
is
of the,
still-
I mean, this is brand new, so this would not be inside of the public consumption laws, I would imagine.
These are going to be just your brick and mortar dispensaries, though,
Yeah,
is
but
what
that's
this
not
applies to.
my question is if somebody's walking down the street with an open beer, you can't do that.
But you're asking, again, it's judiciary, we're here, this is the licensing. So we didn't, that is not at all addressed in this bill for those reasons. We're talking about licensing and how businesses are gonna run. So a lot of those that was passed, I believe, last year.
Yeah,
And,
you're still-
and they included in the, Clean Air Act, they made sure that marijuana was there, they laid
Well,
out.
these bills interlace.
But
That's
they
why
laid
I'm
out
asking the
penalty,
question.
I'm sure this, with a lot of bills, what I'm saying with specificity, they laid out all of that last year, and yes, those were brought in as far as public consumption, smoking marijuana in public, it's still a fine, just like drinking is a fine. That's all was done last year.
It's just a civil penalty, right? So there's
Correct.
you don't need to produce ID still or anything like that. So if an officer
Don't, I
stops
mean,
you-
you're having me guess now, because I didn't write that bill.
Well, you're an attorney.
Yeah, but I
that's
wrote
why
that.
I'm asking you.
I don't remember everything, okay? My job is to do research, not always know. So at the end of the day, it is a law. We have addressed it. Can't tell you right now, but when we get on the floor, I guarantee you Luke Clippinger will, or I'm sorry, Chairman Clippinger or somebody in his staff will be able to.
Great.
We good? Delegate Rose, another bite.
Thank you. I just want to be clear. So it's 500 feet from a school. So if a dispensary wants to put up a brick and mortar store 505 feet from a school, if they don't get that, they're going to sue the
No,
county?
that's the minimum standards. The county can say 1,000 feet from a school, and as long as it's not something that's onerous and precludes anybody from locating anywhere, they'll be fine. This was just the minimum standards that were set.
And who defines what's onerous?
The courts, through lawsuits.
So somebody, that's my point.
But y'all
So
realize this
if
is
somebody
why-
says, this is onerous, I want to put my store here, and Carroll County says no.
Correct.
And I'm mad, and now I'm taking you to
Well, you
court.
better be mad and wealthy, because you're also gonna have to pay for lawyers to do that. So I don't believe that's gonna be as, much of an argument as you think, because I know how expensive I am. But you're right, they can if they wanna argue that, but they're gonna there's an uphill battle, they're gonna be the plaintiff, so they're the moving party, and the burden is entirely on them to demonstrate why it's onerous.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I believe that we can go.
Keep on. On page 59, lines 17 through 23, you'll see some expansion of legal situations under which a license may transfer to include receivership or settlement agreements because of litigation. On the bottom of page 76 through the top of page 77, you'll find a new reporting requirement for cannabis businesses. Skipping ahead, pages 78 through 80, language regarding advertising is tightened up and more specificity is added, including requirements surrounding online age verification. Intoxicating product provisions you'll find on pages 84 and 85. Those are tightened up under the amendments. Of note, you'll see that hemp-derived tinctures are now accepted from the definition, but still must undergo the same testing standards as other cannabis products to ensure safety. On page 96, you'll find various changes to the revenue distributions from where it left the House. Now, 35% of the revenue goes to the Community Reinvestment and Repair Fund, 5% goes to counties and municipalities, and out of that 5%, municipalities receive 50% of the revenue attributable to their jurisdiction. Just want to note that there's a typo in the reprint. It says 60%, that's 50%. 5% goes to the health fund, and 5% goes to the business assistance fund. Moving to to page 97, lines 8 and 9, you'll now see that the tax rate is no longer tiered. It is just a single tax rate at 9%, set to be very, just like alcohol. Correct. So the way that it came out of the House is beginning, it started at 6% and phased up over 5 years to 10%. It's just flat 9%, period.
Yeah, it's just flat 9%, guys. This is our negotiation. So it's not going to go all the way up to 10, but yeah, 9.
On page 99, after line 17, you'll see that social equity licensees are explicitly added to the list of businesses prioritized to the Business Assistance Fund that you all established last year. Page 104, after line 7, the bill now explicitly authorizes the Cannabis Division to hire communication services. It's important that we go ahead and get out public and consumer education campaigns to explain our new cannabis laws and also to explain health and safety risks. On the bottom of page 104 through the top of page 105, you'll remember the Pigford v. Glickman Cannabis Licensee Awards. Of note now, only 5 grow licenses will be handed out under the provision. Finally, on page 108, beginning with line 5, the bill authorizes certain growers who don't already hold a dispensary license to receive a dispensary license. And that actually wasn't finally. Now finally, on the same page, after line 16, you'll also see some cleanup language there that requires the operation of certain entities via an MOU, and then authorizes the state to move around money in the budget to cover the expenses and positions and just to kind of stand up the industry to give some flexibility there. And with that, Mr. Chair, that summarizes the amendments.
On the amendments, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Amendments are accepted. Okay.
Move the bill as amended.
On the bill as amended, any discussion? Yes, sir.
So the only question I have, and it really is just a global question of what's happening with the hemp industry. I've heard a lot about it being removed, and I suppose I just need a understanding is.
And so here's the thing, and this is for the folks that have been here a little while, is we all voted on hemp quite a while ago, remember? About 7 years ago, I believe, for industrial hemp. That's still in existence. They're still protected. What was, I guess, excluded from the bill was the people that were breaking down hemp into an intoxicating substance, Delta 8. And so that is no longer legal in the state. But as far as the hemp products, you know, the farmers, they're protected. In fact, that's why they threw that little goofy part in there with the tincture, is, you know, because the farmers really pressed and said that was something that they were interested in. But we worked as much as we could with the agricultural folks, but there really was, we could not find any kind of end for the individuals that were selling intoxicated products that derive from hemp.
So when I go back home after this bill passes, assuming that the industry's been, I'm going to say eliminated, so what I'm hearing you say is that they are producing intoxicating products, these CBD dispensaries, we'll call them, and that the state in this bill basically renders their business model illegal.
Only the intoxicating part. Those that are selling lotions, because it's all consumption. Okay. So the lotions, the stuff that we were told that they are selling that's not for intoxication purposes, they can still sell.
Okay.
As long as it doesn't hit that limit. What's the limit? It's 0.3?
Yeah, there are some varying limitations.
Yeah, it's weird, but my point is, as long as they're not selling products to get you high, they're fine. They can keep their business open.
Right. So, I mean, I don't go this, I've not been to one of the stores.
Wink.
So I'm only.
I get it.
No, I get it.
Go ahead.
I love you, Chairman. You know, I just want to make sure that what I'm hearing you say, and I guess we'll hear about this on the floor, because I'm sure that was there a Senate amendment on this, trying to,
There may have been. It didn't pass, but yes.
okay.
But I understand. I know where you're going. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You can still sell those intoxicating products as long as you have a license now. So that's, you're under, to sell that, you have to now fall under the licensure structure.
The
So
marijuana
everybody's under the same set of
licensure
rules.
So hemp farmers can still sell to processors and whatnot. It's just it kicks the intoxicating substance into the legal system.
And the big problem is, it was a loophole, to be very honest, okay? Most people here would not have voted for that had we known that they would be selling gummies that would get people high. One, two, and they're not being tested. And the key about this entire bill is the safety part. Besides the equity and the access is the safety. And there was no way of testing that because they can order it from anywhere. All of our cannabis is right here in Maryland, so we're testing at the processor and at the grower. In order for this to have worked, we would also have to now test at the retail site. It becomes a huge burdensome issue on something that most folks here didn't really agree to anyway. So we did try, but that's why we had the tinctures in there for the farmers.
I see.
Okay?
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, bud. Next we have Delegate Harrison.
Thank you. I just wanted for clarification, going back to the zoning piece, since I used to do the zoning in the county. So the counties, we have the limit, the 500 feet and 1,000 feet respectively in those particular cases. But the county then can, through their own zoning authorities, say that while the state minimum is 500 feet from a school, we say that you have to be at least 1,500 feet. And then that's the only way that you could possibly get a permit.
Okay.
I'm asking for
Yeah,
clarification.
they can
Is
do that, but they can be challenged if it becomes so onerous that there's no locations or very few locations. Yes.
Yes,
But
but
yes.
if they think 500 feet isn't far enough.
Right.
So they can go to 1,000
And believe me, a lot of us
feet, yeah.
probably don't think it is far enough. So I would hope that the counties do say, I don't know, 1,000 feet. The days, with like our liquor stores, but we just set the minimum guidelines in there.
I got it. I just
Okay.
want to be able to go back and talk with my council
Yep.
and with suggestions.
There you go.
Thank you.
Delegate Howard, one more angry bite at the apple. Go ahead.
So, well, that's just because it's you, that's all. So, what did we do for testing for hemp farmers? So it's point 3. What they were talking about is testing on site for up to 0.1 before they retrograde down the tinctures and whatever else that they're selling.
They'll be tested by the Cannabis Commission.
Yeah, same as the cannabis stuff now. So
They'll-
cannabis
they'll
is gonna
be-
So
roll
it's got to
through
be
the same-
tested off site.
Correct.
Okay, so
On what? It's got to be tested.
Right.
Does it matter if it's on site or off site? I don't think.
yeah, because of transportation.
Keep going.
Yeah. So according
Let
to
me pull this up real
yeah,
quick.
that was the whole deal behind some of the hemp bills was transporting from 0.3 to 0.1% or 1.3 to 1%. So they wanted that variance in there because you can't control what the sun and the rain and the humidity and the soil do to a plant as far as the THC content. So that what they wanted to be able to do was test on site and say, okay, it's 1% or below. We can transport it, we can retrograde it down to 0.3% where we can use it in these tinctures and these lotions.
I don't believe that was, if I'm being honest, I don't believe that we addressed that. I don't believe the tinctures actually addressed that because that's only testing for the tinctures. That's not
That,
testing
I mean,
every and all hemp product ever grown in Maryland.
Yeah, this only touches this provision that's added, that's different from the House bill, adds some specificity around just the general definition section. It's just clarifying.
Yeah.
But regarding tinctures specifically, it
Yeah.
just says that you have to provide samples for the purpose of testing to determine
Right.
chemical potency and composition levels and detect and quantify contaminants.
I gotta be honest with you, it sounds like they're out of business.
Who?
I mean, the hemp farmers, these
Why is
folks,
that?
because of the testing. The whole reason that they came in here was the 0.3, the 0.03 to the 1% variance in the,
So
in the
what
testing.
happens if they don't get tested?
It's not about them getting tested. They want to get tested. It's about transporting this product
Without being
about
tested.
selling it.
My problem is, your question is, so, I don't understand the allegation, so if they transport it without being tested, what's the problem? I've always asked that same question.
Violation of federal
Right.
law, and then they,
We're in violation of federal law by selling cannabis right now, okay? That's why I'm trying to get this. We are, right now, creating something is entirely in violation of federal law. So, and let's be honest, so if you're transporting the cannabis from a grow to a dispensary, you could get stopped by a federal agency and they could do something with you. So that's already where we are. This does not change that. This does not change any way that federal laws will be applied. We just assume they're not going to be, and they're going to give us state autonomy.
So they're out of business. Okay.
No, I mean, literally,
certainly
the
are.
opposite of what I said. But go ahead. How are they out of business? Because they can still move.
Because we didn't address their concern moving forward.
And they were in business right now, and they're in violation of federal law.
could-
Why would that change? How does that change now?
Okay.
They're in
So-
business. I'm assuming they're going to stay in business because we haven't changed any way. We haven't increased any regulations. We have not villainized them, and we have not made them criminals by this bill. And we can't fix what the feds are going to do.
Right. Okay. So, 35% to the Community Reinvestment Repair Fund. What is that? Is that fenced off funding? How is that? I
So
mean,
as it left the house, you also established the Community Reinvestment and Repair Fund last
Right.
year. And then you, we put 30% in as it left the house. So these amendments increase it by 5%. This goes to, excuse me, community-based organizations that, for work in communities that were disproportionately impacted by cannabis prohibition, essentially. No, it is cordoned off in a special fund.
Correct. It's a special
All to
fund. It
itself.
can't slide anywhere else. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And my question is similar to Seth's. Is the Cannabis Public Health Fund, what exactly is that?
We established that last year. It supports, there's a cannabis advisory, health council and stuff that kind of meets regularly in order to just, look at the most recent things happening in cannabis related to health and safety. And it's meant to help fund that and other initiatives as well that go to health and safety campaigns.
From the counties and the municipalities, or just the municipalities?
No, that gets shaved off from the sales tax revenue.
Okay.
You guys remember, I think Delegate Mangione brought in a bill with the having to do with marijuana psychosis, and this is to expound upon that. Do that research as we go forward, produce reports to make sure they're tracking any illnesses, children having access when they shouldn't, things of that nature, so we as a body can know what to do next. Delegate Rose, the 9th bite at the apple.
It's not the 9th. Just 2 quick questions, hopefully, and if I missed it, I apologize. Where do we stand in this bill, or did we address for employers testing?
Didn't address it.
It didn't address it.
So right now, nothing's changed. It's the
Okay.
right to hire state. They have the right to test. They have the right to ask. They have the right to put their own requirements in.
Okay. And the other one, so you get pulled over. What about with policing? What happens with that? Does any of that changed?
Nothing. This is all a licensing bill, guys.
Okay. Thanks.
We'll keep going. Go ahead.
I mean, not in this bill, but there were other bills passed that
That's what I
impact
said.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. But yes, they had, the situation has changed, but not in this bill.
Correct. Yeah, not in this bill. That's what I said. That's what I said. But thank you for your interpretation. There you go. I'm sorry. Yeah, you guys. Thank you. He's speaking R. He's speaking R for us. Thank you. Okay, I don't see any other points of discussion. I'll wait till the Republicans calm down. We good? Again, colleagues, I appreciate the fruitful debate we always have here. We do need to move on with this vote because we're getting ready to have to go to the floor. It's been moved and properly seconded. Favor with amendments. Mr. Vice Chair.
Aye.
Delegate Harrison. Delegate Wafo. Delegate Howard. Delegate Charkoudian. Delegate Rose. Delegate Pruski. Delegate Fennell. Delegate Turner. Delegate Sample Hughes is excused. Delegate Valderrama. Delegate Chi. Delegate Frazier-Hidalgo. Delegate Adams. Delegate Arentz. Delegate Pippy, Delegate Jackson, Delegate Johnson, Delegate Rogers, Delegate Amprey. Delegate Weibel is excused. Oh, there he is. I'm shocked. I'm sorry. It was Delegate Weibel. You're a no. Delegate Weibel is a no. Delegate Fisher is excused. Lastly, Delegate Queen. Thank you. Bill passes favorable with amendments. Do we have time to go through the other ones? Do we have time?
We have at least one of the alcohol calendars is a consent one.
I'm talking about on 17. Which on list 17? Do we still have time? Okay, so we're gonna briefly fly through this real quick. House Bill 1208.
Move unfavorable withdrawn.
Oh, my bad. Second, all in favor, unfavorable, withdrawn, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Delegate, I'm sorry, House Bill 288.
Senate Bill, we're going to take Senate Bill 299 first. Please.
Senate Bill 299,
Thank
sorry.
you. HGO's primary committee, ECM is secondary. Yesterday, they voted this out in the crossfile with amendments with a vote of 17-6. As amended, Senate Bill 299 requires each owner and operator of a grocery store or restaurant to place an AED in a prominent area and maintain its functionality. As I said, there are amendments to the bill, and it alters a definition, alters certain thresholds, and requires each grocery store to register with the Maryland Institute for Emergency Medical Services Systems.
Could you explain what an AEE is to the colleagues?
Automatic external defibrillator. If someone's having some kind of sudden cardiac event, it'll
And I know,
hopefully bring them.
I know there is a
into a
cost
rhythm.
to this, but isn't there a fund or isn't there a set aside for this?
No.
Not in this bill.
Oh, yeah, so there's a tax credit bill that just passed. I believe it was Delegate Barnes's. It's $500 tax credit for someone who purchases an AED.
It saves lives, you get a tax credit for it. That's why we're moving. Yep.
So they cost,
300-400.
they cost, but a new one between $880 and $1,700, a pre-owned is $500 and $800 between.
Nope. Go ahead.
It's a mandate and a tax credit, or is it just a tax credit?
There's two different bills. There's already a tax credit. Now we're doing a mandate.
Got it, thank you.
I'm sorry?
When's the date?
January 1st, 2025.
Okay. On the amendments?
Aye.
Any opposed? Outstanding.
Move the
On
bill.
Thank you. On the bills amended, any discussion? Hearing none. Delegate Crosby? Delegate Harrison? Delegate Boafo? Delegate Howard? Delegate Charkoudian? Delegate Rose? Delegate Pruski? Delegate Fennell? Delegate Turner? Delegate Sample Hughes excused. Delegate Valderrama? Delegate Chi? Delegate Frazier Dago? Delegate Adams? Delegate Arentz? Delegate Pippy? Delegate Jackson? Delegate Johnson? Delegate Rogers? Delegate Amprey? Delegate Weibel? Delegate Fisher's excused. Delegate Queen. Bill passes as amended. The next bill is 288.
It is identical to Senate Bill 299, which you all just voted. There is one amendment which conforms the House bill to the Senate bill.
Yep. On the amendments, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none.
Move the bill as amended.
On the bill is amended,
Same vote as.
same vote. So on the bill is amended, all yeas except for Howard, Rose, Adams, Arentz, Pippy, and Weibel, with Fisher and Sample Hughes excused. Next bill, please.
760 is the crossfire to House Bill 1055 that this body just voted on a few days ago. The amendment in your packet is the security guard bill. The amendment in your packet conforms the Senate bill to the House bill as this committee voted out and the chamber voted out yesterday.
On the amendments, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none.
Move the bill as amended.
On the bills amended, any discussion? Hearing none. Delegate Crosby. Delegate Harrison. Delegate Boafo. Delegate Howard. Delegate Charkoudian. Delegate Rose. Delegate Pruski. Delegate Fennell. Delegate Turner. Delegate Sample Hughes is excused. Delegate Valderrama. Delegate Chi. Delegate Frazier Dago. Delegate Adams. Delegate Arentz. Delegate Pippy. Delegate Jackson. Delegate Johnson. Delegate Rogers. Delegate Amprey. Delegate Weibel. Delegate Fisher's excused. Delegate Queen. Bill moves favorable as amended. Thank you, colleagues. Be prepared to vote again between sessions. Thank you. Thank you, Bob.
Not sure what I did.
What?
Not sure what I did.
Fast I go. I know it's hard to keep up. I didn't go.